Cunnisty, how are ye? Welcome to another Candlelittales podcast where it is a different day from the last time. You can tell because we're wearing the same clothes and we're sitting in the same place in the same house.
And you're listening to it on a podcast, so you can't tell that at all.
And you might be like watching it on YouTube.
And if you are, like and subscribe.
I know. See, if you want to know what clothes we wear every day of our lives, because we only have one jumper each. That's why we're wearing the same clothes in every video.
Thanks for joining us on the Candlelit podcast as we are talking about the Tuath de Dannan, the last episode, Sreng and Bres.
Oh yeah. I was doing the introduction. Patreons, thank you Patreons for Patreon supporting us, because it is thanks to you that we have GoPros and our lovely Zoom and Oisin, who you can't see.
Yeah, you bought us an Oisin.
But a little bit like the cameras.
Wait a second.
You are seeing us through the Oisin. We are mediated through a filter of Oisin, who is in the kitchen opping this while we're in his living room chatting. Because we could be in a house now.
And touch each other, look at that. Socially distant, but ow! Not at all. But also,
we're in a bubble.
We're in a bubble. Also, in fairness, today is the day that Rory O'Shea gets his new laptop, because it's massively needed. Every time he exported stuff, it was taking like an hour. It was breaking his fan.
It was taking him an hour, and then it was dying.
It was just dying. And Rory has been working his ass off on basically this year's podcast and freeing Oisin up to do a lot of the video stuff and other productions. And so now you guys
bought him a laptop.
So
you don't know this yet, but you bought Rue a laptop.
So thank you so much. And now we can be able to edit and add the music without it being a massive.
Without it being a horrible nightmare of tech breaking down every single time.
Yeah. So a little bit goes a long way. A lot of you giving us a little bit makes us able to build up a little kitty to buy Rue a laptop.
Absolutely.
Which is class. So thank you so much for that. And now we're on about I guess the Tuath de Dannan.
We're talking about the Tuath de Dannan, who arrive as foreshadowed at the end of the last episode. They arrive and then they do what to their ships? They just
burn them like absolute weirdos.
That's a move.
It's definitely a move.
It's a hard move.
I guess we heard the Fearbulloch last episode. We understand their kind of journey a little bit. We kind of get fuck all about the Tuath de Dannan. And yet.
Like a little bit like how the Fearbulloch are like, they're enslaved and they're given this one job and it's weird. The Tuath de Dannan's like, they go north and stuff happens.
They go to the magical islands of the north. Yeah, cities. And
cities. This is a land where there were no towns in Ireland before the Vikings got here. And yet cities. They go to cities.
Yeah. So these cities in the north, and I guess whether or not they were the Tuath de Dannan then, or they got the name afterwards, as we've kind of talked about before, there may have been a goddess leading them around known as Danu. That's all been lost to us. We do know that they went to Phalias, Phineas, Morius and Gorius. Yes. And these are the magical islands, and they get the magical artifacts from them. Yes. And I even found a source that had the names of the people who made them in the cities. And
and the stuff that they get rocks, they get cauldrons, they get spears. Oh my god!
One of those, and
a sword. But they get the leofold, they get the stone of destiny, which is rock.
Yeah,
which is basically rock.
Sure.
Okay, it's a good rock.
It's good. It's a very good rock.
It's a very good rock.
Very handy rock. It screams when the rightful ruler. I'm not. I think the rock is the shittest one that they get.
No, that's important. It screams when the rightful ruler sits on it.
Jumps over it.
Sits on it.
Oh. Wow.
It's a symbolic mating with the land, man.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't jump over it.
That's going to tickle. That is going to tickle in all the right places.
It's also opposite of Sheila Nagig and Tara.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good old Sheila.
Phallic.
Right. No, she's Yonic.
Yeah, she's Yonic.
The Leofold is phallic.
There
you go. So anyway, you set on the Leofold to be the rightful king. That's very, very important. And the Cauldron of Plenty.
Avoid the penetration on that one.
Cauldron of Plenty?
Cauldron of Plenty, or the Cauldron of Abundance, which I love because it never runs empty. It's symbolic of like that the need for food and the need for sustenance, and I guess they avoid the need for slavery by having this cauldron.
I mean,
maybe
you don't need slavers and farms. You don't need any farms at all. You just have a big pot.
Giant pot
of porridge.
And you just reach
I
in
know, I've always told it in stories, especially to kids, is like your favourite food is in there and you take it out, but it's porridge. We all know. It's an Irish cauldron. It's porridge. It's made of porridge. It has porridge in it.
I maybe I've heard that from you, and I just put into the
porridge.
story. I always thought it was. You're like whatever you wanted.
Nah, it's porridge.
Okay.
I mean, no, I'm kidding.
Endless porridge.
Listen, endless porridge is a very exciting thing to anybody who isn't a modern human.
I see.
Do you know what I mean?
Always
like,
porridge.
Modern humans are like, ooh, food, what shall I have? What of the 1,000 things that I could have will I eat today? Every other phase of human history and the majority of the planet today is like, oh my god, it's literally anything edible. Amazing.
Anything.
Holy shit. This is the staple boring food that I eat for breakfast every day, and yet I don't have to die to get it. Wow.
Yeah.
You know?
Mind blown.
So I mean, for modern people, we got to make it a little bit exciting. We got to make it a little bit sexy.
Sure.
You know.
It's the sizzle, the sass,
Yeah.
the zinga.
Porridge.
Okay. So then we have the Spear of Light and the Sword of Destiny.
Yeah.
They're kind of, what I love with the descriptions of these is like, so you have sparks coming off of the Spear of Light, so big they're the size of either raindrops or a man's fist in some descriptions, and huge sparks that you have to put into like this liquid that has loads of herbs in it to cool it, because otherwise the shaft will go on fire and the holder will be engulfed in flames. So it's gnarly, and you have to be well able to use it.
It's a proper like heavy metal magic spear, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's the kind of magic spear where if you pick it up, the spear is like, okay, murder everybody.
Murder
and you're like, what? I
everybody,
don't.
Kind of like the poisonous spear in the Sons of Tyr.
Quite a lot like the poison
Quite
spear
a
in the
lot.
sun. In fact, you'd wonder why they needed the poison spear.
Anyway, then you have the sword of light again. Similar
Yeah, the
descriptions.
Cleosulus.
Cleosulus.
It's the sword of light and it's the spear of destiny, right?
Yeah, I might have said that backwards.
I think we said that backwards.
Sorry.
It's alright, I missed it. But I caught it now, which is the important thing.
Yeah, it's Cleosulus.
So the Cleosulus is the sword of light, and yeah, it's a sword.
And so this becomes Lu's sword, but Lu is not born yet.
Of course.
Okay, so we're just dealing with this story.
It's kind of cool actually, because a lot of them aren't like. There's some of the ones that we know are there, and a lot of them are not there yet.
Not there
like
yet.
the big lads are not there yet.
Sure.
And in fact, Manannán doesn't come with them.
Well, that's the whole debate of whether Manannán MacLear, the god of the sea, is really.
Is he even Tuath de Dannan? Because there's a lot to suggest that he is not. He is not.
Because he doesn't come up in this.
He doesn't come up in this at all, and he doesn't come up. The place where he comes up for the first time in the Book of Invasions is the Battle of Tuatha. And we will talk about that. We will talk about that.
That's at the end, though.
That's the end. That's
the final battle.
And I think the way he comes up is just epically cool. But like, yeah, a lot of the ones like you mentioned, Lu is not present yet. A lot of the ones that we're kind of familiar with are not there yet. Now, we've come across, I think, Nemed before in the Boan story. She's married to Nemed.
Nuada.
Oh God, Nuada. Jesus Christ.
So Nuada.
Again,
so,
when things begin with the same letter, what do you want from me?
And look, and this is why I kind of did that little bit of a roll call in
Boan
this
is married
episode.
to Nuada.
And Gubnu the Smith.
Gubnu is there. Dean
the
Kecht is
physician.
there.
And we have Boan, what else did Birog of the Mountain, who kind of sings songs. I kind of had a bit of an introduction to all these characters who become much bigger and have their own chapters and have their own kind of stories as we go on. But it's kind of nice to give the roll call.
Yeah, but then there's kind of several like significant figures who are not around yet.
Sure.
Lu being the main one.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm wrong about Manannán MacLear coming up first in the Battle of Tuatha, because he comes up in the story of Lu.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Now, there's versions of where he isn't in that.
There's versions where he isn't.
So I'm not sure what the division of. Anyway, look, we
will decide that when we record the Lu one.
When we actually get to that story.
Whichever one of us is recording the Lu story, we'll make that decision.
But as you said, these guys come down and they land on Ireland's shore. Much like the Fearbug, they've kept the stories of this land alive, and this is their kind of promised land. This is their returning to the place that they consider their place.
They seem to have had a lovely time.
Grand time.
In a nice city, having a spear and a rock and a pot.
And figuring out eternal life.
And learning how to be
not
magic.
Getting any vitamin D at all. They're pasty, pale, they have sunken eyes, white, bleached hair practically, or red.
No, they don't have red hair.
Some of them do.
Do they?
Yeah. Some of them. Well, again, sources of red or blonde.
Because the redheaded thing in Ireland was originally a Viking thing.
Technically, definitely. In the stories of a couple of versions that I found, the description was they were tall, pale, slender, thin, pale with green or grey eyes, and blonde hair or red hair.
It sounds like somebody was ripping off J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was the other way around.
Very elven descriptions.
Well, yeah. No, I mean that's where he got them from.
Absolutely.
That's what I was getting at. That was my little joke there.
Well, I was just getting that in just to hit the nail on the head.
Just make sure we explain the joke for everybody.
Yeah.
No, Tolkien read a lot of Irish mythology, and that's where he got his elves off of.
And probably all the rest of the creatures like that.
Yeah. We're gonna find out about a guy with a big eye in a minute. In a couple of weeks. Anyway, moving on.
So, as you said, they land in Ireland, or in this land has yet to be named.
Not Ireland yet.
Not named Ireland yet, and they burn all of their boats, basically saying to whoever's here, we're here now. We've landed, and we're taking this land. We're not going back.
Even not as a symbolic gesture, just as a move, it is they are stuck now. It is there is literally no going back,
and also
they can't leave.
But maybe they've just been wandering around in boats so long. They're like, fuck that noise. We don't like that anymore. We're done with seafaring.
Done with boats. I want featherbed and
they specifically want Tara.
They specifically want Tara, and this is the kind of I do love this whole encounter because it is the story of two champions, each of whom sees a champion who's very different than him, and it just there is no other way. There's a lot of moments in Irish mythology, and I was actually telling this story the other day, the boyhood of Fionn, who was raised by his aunt and her very good friend, who was a lady who lived with him, or who lived with her. There's a lot of characters in Irish mythology that you could read as queer, very, very, very easily. And this, I think, is one of the more straight on the nose. This is a dialogue in which two men meet and fall in love. Completely.
And I was talking to Rory before recording this, because I kind of just needed to talk it out a little bit, and he was really helpful in terms of the moods, and musically he loves to hear about what we're thinking before he gets to set the music. So in talking, I was like, I kind of want to make it a passionate, loving embrace between them. And as then I kind of went into the story, I found I'll leave it to this. We'll talk about it afterwards. I'll more talk with how I'll allude to it, and hopefully that you might have gotten from it. As it is written, it's they both are amazed by each other. Bres is stunned by the size of this guy, who I kind of have as in my head a kind of an Arnold Schwarzenegger type.
Yeah, he's
Hulk,
a big brute of a
man. Yeah. And Bres is essentially.
Bres is a little bit of a twink.
What's his name?
He's a pretty boy.
The dude from Legolas, what's his name?
Yeah.
Orlando Bloom.
So
Orlando Bloom meets Arnie.
Or fucking Mark Ruffalo in Hulk mode. But less green.
Green.
Yeah. You got the big guy meeting the small guy, and they just are like, oh my god, you're so cool and you're so pretty.
Yeah, well,
Can I touch your spear?
Yeah, enough said really there.
That
about sums it up.
That's what happens in the story. And I love that it's they're talking and then they're like, wait a minute, we're able to converse.
Oh yeah, how are we able to do that? We're talking for it takes ages for them to pop that question, going, wait a second, how can I understand you? Why are we speaking the same language? And eventually they realise, they're 300 years ago descendants of the same race.
We're essentially cousins. That's even better. It's great. It's brilliant.
And therefore lays the road for all of the incest. Jeez. Oh, Jesus.
Look, they're incredibly distant cousins.
Incredibly. I think
Incredibly
once 300
distant.
years goes by, I think you're okay. The gene
I think
pool
you're
is
okay. I think
separated, no?
I think the pool is wide enough at that stage.
But
yeah.
but basically, it's a real horrible move for the Tuatha de Dannan to kind of come in and go, we want the land. Now, it's understandable, right? But it has this bang of oppression on it coming in and going, we demand this.
It's a really interesting thing. I remember playing this out, and Rue was there this year actually in the Bard one year.
Oh, yeah.
We were looking at the Book of Invasions and splitting into our different groups and kind of doing little bits of reenactments of parts of the mythology as they do in the Bard, and the absolute bewilderment of the people on the Tuatha de Dannan side who had no fear and no trauma, who were like, oh, this is great, we'll share it. And the absolute fucking terror of a people who've been through what the Firbolg have been through. Of somebody swanning in and going, oh look, we have a magic stone that will tell you who the king is going to be. Don't ask us how it works. You don't need to know that. Like the fucking, I'm sorry, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, the fear and the
terror. I remember, I always do a thing on the bars where I go with whatever group I don't really get. And I just remember, I remember going with the Firbolg group and being like, oh my god, I get it. Like these fucking people just walking up and being like, cool, I'll have that and that and that. You don't mind, do you? And it's like, I fucking do now. Sorry,
just to explain, every year in Achill Island.
No, it's Clare Island.
Sorry.
Every year on Clare Island up to the pandemic was the Bard Mythology, Bard Summer School. We've been on it a couple of times. Bard Mythology is the website, is one that I helped, do a lot of work on the stories on at one point. And they're still going. They're running courses online at the moment into Irish mythology. They're doing loads of stuff all the time.
So do check
But
them
they
out.
do a fantastic summer school on Clare Island. If anybody's really interested in just diving into mythology, they take a small group of stories or even one story every year to look at.
Deep dive.
And do a deep dive for a week. So you end up on an island with a whole load of mad mythology heads and a whole load of islanders from Ireland, which is also mad in a different way, and it's fucking great.
Yeah, I can't wait to go back.
Oh man.
Clare Island is very special as well.
It's a beautiful island.
Such a beautiful, out on the west coast, just surrounded by water.
It's one of those islands that's definitely 100% made of magic.
I think so, yeah. Apparently there's a lot of, what are the lines?
Ley lines.
Ley lines.
It's a convergence.
Convergence points.
Feels like magic.
Must be magic. So, speaking of magic, they bring magic with them. They have the power of, like the Tuatha de Dannan have the power of ever living with them now. They kind of so we don't know which ones have lived through. And this is what I think is really interesting about the personalities of the Tuatha de Dannan. They've come across, they've come back from the islands of the northern magical mythical islands. They've become pale, and some of them are very, very old. And all I can think of is kind of, the patriarchy gets the bad rep, but the old oligarchy, the old power that is very devoid of empathy for people.
I think
if you live long enough and you see too much suffering, you just kind of get
you just get disconnected from it. And I think that they're the way that they come in. And that's kind of the tragedy of this situation, of course, which is embodied in the Sreng and Bres, is that if they actually meet eye to eye, they can love each other. But they don't. They send their champions out to meet eye to eye. The champions fall for each other completely and are like, let's not fight. We don't want to fight. And then they go back to their respective kings and the kings say, fight.
Well, but it's kind of, I kind of get it from the Firbolg's point of view.
I totally get it, because I think the attitude of the Tuatha de Dannan is one of extreme arrogance, and as you say, there is this lack of empathy in it, because they don't come as guests.
No,
they don't come with any humility. They don't ask.
Yeah,
they essentially say, we'll divide the land, right? Cool.
Yeah,
and the Firbolg are like, not fucking cool.
And specifically the real deal breaker, which is actually something that I hadn't known before looking into this, was they demand the Hill of Tara, and they demand that they have access a lot of that. Now that's the King Oki's home. That's where they're ruling from. That's what they've set up. That's what they finally found peaceful.
That's fifth province that they've created. All their years of hardship, all their years of struggle, all their years of civil war. And these people come in and go, cool, we'll have your castle, we'll have your best hill, we'll have the highest ground in the land, we'll have the best defensive position, and half of it.
Yeah.
We cool? Like, it's just supremely arrogant.
And now Sreng sees it and goes, right, here lads, I think we should take the deal because I've seen, like, they have magic. They have really slick weapons. Cubnu, the smith, has made everything sharp and pointy. You should see how cat-like Bres moves. He's very, very fast. He's very small and agile. And I like the way he moves.
And pretty. And his hair is pretty. And I like his face. I like his yeah, exactly. But like, so there's a little bit of a, this is the thing, they have this whole like mutual, like it's mutual admiration, but it's also mutual respect, and like, I don't want to go up against you in a fight.
And interestingly, as we'll find out next week, we Bres and Sreng, they meet again before the first battle of Mythora, and they basically say, I'm going to try and kill your king because I'm on the opposite side of you, but I'm not going to fight you. And they agree not to fight, and they basically embrace. And it's heartbreaking because they've met, they've fallen in love, they've spent enough time with each other to have really appreciated the opposite and the contrast in that they see themselves.
Touched each other's weapons.
They absolutely stroked each other's weapons. That's just call it what it is. And then they are put in the opposite corners, much like Cuchulainn and Ferdia, having to fight for for their kings, for
also,
their land.
Definitely riding. Let's just say it.
100%. And I mean, you just have to just say everyone's riding everyone at the end of these, because you go, why do we have these, boxes that people have to put in? Because like we all got bits and. Anyway, the more you look into mythology, the more like it breaks down walls, it breaks down barriers, it breaks down genders. It breaks
all
down
the time.
The more you look into it, but in my own humble opinion,
yes, you who have done so little looking into mythology, so
we basically we're up to the point where Sreng goes back to the Firbolg and goes, look, I don't think we should fight them. They're really strong. They're really fast. They're really, all
and
Bres
is kind of a similar thing where he's like, these guys are tough, man. We don't want to fight them, and also we don't want to fight them. It wouldn't be cool.
Yeah.
But
less fear. Definitely less fear.
No, I think the Tuatha are more like, is it a morally right thing to do? Which like it isn't, but they do it anyway.
They do it anyway, and then Nuada does that little thing of sending the Morrigan to follow Sreng into the hall of the Firbolg, to eavesdrop, to listen up and figure out what it is that they're going to say. And as soon as the battle is getting, all the Firbolg are ramped up for this war to come, they're going to beat their oppressors back, and the shriek goes out. The Morrigan calls, and we're setting up for the first battle of Mythora,
which will be next time.
Thanks for listening, guys. Tune in next week as we'll be having the first battle of Mythora, not the last though.
No, because it's first, because there's a second one.
We are very excited to be doing this one, and
we'll see them.
Well, actually, we'll be talking about it first, and then we'll be telling it. So
are we releasing that?
I'm not sure. Look, we're figuring it out as we go.
Listen, we're doing it. Our next post show is going to be a little bit different, okay?
Okay.
That's all we're going to say.
Tune in next time.
That's all we're going to say. See you next time.
Thanks, Patreon supporters, and like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already.
You can see our faces. They look like this.
And our jumpers.
They look like this.
And our t-shirts.
Okay, stopping now.